At Rubber Band, we empower each other through positivity, kindness, and practical advice. Join a community of thousands of peers who understand the unique challenges you face. Rubber Band. Company agnostic, low ego, high empathy, always supportive. And we are live. Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Rubber Band podcast, where I am joined by special guest, Nikki Williams from Mentwell, for another episode of our Talent Tech series. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wadawurrung and Dja Dja Wurrung people. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome, Nikki. How are you doing?
Hey, Eden. Oh gosh, I'm so well. I'm so excited to be here. I just love your work and I love what you stand for, so I'm so excited to chat today.
Oh, that's great. I don't know what I stand for, but that's a nice comment to make. I guess I stand for a lot of things, but I love your work as well, which is why I'm excited we're talking today. So thank you.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. We got a few things to talk about, it sounds like.
Oh, we do. And yeah, where are you joining us from today? Where are you based?
I am up in a beautiful little spot called Wilson's Creek, which is around about 25 minutes sort of north and then inland from Byron Bay. So I'm very lucky to be in the Northern Rivers.
Stop it. It is scorching hot down here in Victoria, and I would do anything to be close to the ocean, a river, any body of water. It is so hot. It is so hot at the moment in Victoria. It's crazy.
And I'm originally a Melbourne girl, so I know what you mean. When it's hot in Melbourne or Victoria in general, it is scorching. It's a particular type of heat. But you know what? There's always a couch here, and you're always welcome.
Oh, great. Well, I'm gonna keep that in mind. That's a good option. But yeah, it totally is. Like, I think we're all, everyone in the industry is sweating through this week. I'm in Ballarat, so it's even hotter. It's always that dry heat with no cool change. But hey, we complain in winter, we complain in summer. But you mentioned you're from Melbourne originally, so that's where I love to start with these conversations. I want to hear all about you growing up, where you're from, about your history and your family. Tell me all about that.
For sure. Okay. So, yes, I grew up in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, in Glen Iris primarily, but I did move around a little bit, especially as a result of, I guess, my family just being really disconnected. I'm the youngest by 9 years. The next person in terms of age is my sister, and she moved away when she was 17. So I was 8. And then we haven't really bonded or reconnected properly since. And there's no one younger than that, even in terms of cousins. So I was sort of this black sheep of the family, if you will. I embrace it these days, trust me. Yeah, you have to get to a point. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, I always knew what I wanted to do. I was always quite entrepreneurial, and I told even my friends in year 5 and year 6 that I was going to work in PR and specifically in music. And still to this day, I've got some of those friends who go, "How did you know what PR was, let alone that you wanted to do it?"
Yeah. PR for me, I think would in the 90s when I was of that age, it would have been Patsy Stone and AbFab, and that was probably the extent of my knowledge. But it's a fascinating industry to work in, and I'm really excited today because this is our Talent Tech series, and everyone that I've spoken to so far, they've maybe come from a HR background or a talent background. And, we've talked about applicant tracking systems. We've talked about all of those kind of operational side, of what we tap into when it comes to our candidates and our employees. And what I really love about what we're going to talk about today with Mentwell is, it covers a lot of the other side. It's reward and recognition, it's employee value proposition, it's wellness, it's even, sustainability. And it's that side of talent that, sometimes perhaps doesn't get the airtime that the recruitment tools do. So I want to hear about how you got on this journey, like how it all came about. And I think a really great way to do that is to reflect on your career and for you to kind of walk me through that dream of moving into music PR and the steps along the way and the roles that you've done and when you set up Mentwell. So take me on that journey.
For sure. I'll just pre-warn you and listeners that this will be quite a journey, but I'll try and make it short.
No, we want to hear. We love this. Career journeys is what we're all about.
I love it. Love it. Okay. So if I took you back really to even year six, for example, so I told you that I wanted to work in PR, but I guess my career goes even further back in that I was school captain in year six and I had access to where they stored all of the assembly equipment. So microphones and stands and cords, all that sort of stuff. Now, little did anyone know that all of the old charity chocolates were behind that equipment. And I was the only person with the key to that particular cupboard where those chocolates were. And so in my entrepreneurial way and slightly sort of dodgy way, really looking back at it, I started reselling those chocolates. And to this day, people sort of have a chuckle when I tell them, but I think it's a good example of how I was always thinking outside of the box, both metaphorically speaking and literally speaking. But moving forward, I then knew that I wanted to work in PR, as I mentioned. And one of my first gigs was moving to New York for a year and a half. And I worked with Snoop Dogg, with the XX, with Cat Power, like these amazing artists who I loved personally. I wasn't that big a fan of Snoop Dogg, I'll be honest, but it was cool working with him. And I realized the power of PR, especially when it was used in a really creative way. And so I then traveled for a little. I came back to Australia and I realized that I guess, market, the industry, the music industry specifically, was too small in Australia for me to really make the impact that I wanted to make. And so I started a PR and digital marketing agency for another industry that I was very, very passionate about, and that's hospitality. And so I made Milk Bottle Projects, and I kind of made that in a time as well where I was going through some really hard mental health issues and health issues as well, actually. And it was my coping mechanism, finding clients, doing PR for them, finding out what they needed, and trying to do as good of a job that I could. And it became quite successful quite quickly as MasterChef was coming up and a lot of big restaurateurs were making a name for themselves. And anyway, I told you it's a long story. Moving forward 12 years, I then traveled again, and I had this massive, huge lifestyle change that happened. So instead of booze and drugs and partying it up, I kind of swapped that for yoga and mindfulness, really. It was a massive flip. And now I'm happier than I've ever been, but that's where Mentwell comes into the story, in that I wanted to be able to give everyone that opportunity to have a lifestyle change to do with health and wellness. Then layering that with COVID as well, I wanted to help a friend pay for a therapy appointment. So simple, so simple. And I realized that Mentwell as a product could solve both of those concepts or provide both of those concepts. One more thing, I thought it would be a consumer product, but then I did research with 200 HR managers, and very clearly it was a product that fit into the health and wellness benefits programs for a lot of businesses. It also worked into the health insurance claim process as well. It was a great benefit. It was great for charities as well. And all of a sudden, I realized that maybe I was actually onto something pretty cool here that was both purpose-led, but also a really viable business mechanism for me, but also to give back to employees in terms of health and wellness. Anyway, I can take a breath now.
Yeah, which is interesting. So you've got, the audience of, employees, which is great. And you talked about insurance, and I find this really interesting. I worked for quite a big life insurer for a number of years as their head of talent, and they had a program called Vitality, and I found it really, really interesting that those lifestyle shifts and the commercial benefit that it has for a life insurer, but you're also changing lives and helping people live longer, healthier lives, right? And then that's got a commercial benefit. So, wellness isn't all around, the warm and fuzzy that we talk about and, people, feeling better and making those lifestyle adjustments. It actually has those commercial benefits as well. And likewise in HR, right? Because what you will see is less sick leave. And, it's I think wellness is an underrated asset that actually has a financial benefit to an organization, I think is what I'm saying. I think people may fall into the trap of thinking, we can have a well-being wellness program and that's, to be nice and it's part of our employee value proposition, but it actually has it's got a financial benefit to it. Is that what you found when you researched with the HR managers?
Hugely, absolutely, especially in those companies who have had significant budget to put into these sorts of platforms, if you will, or benefits programs. Yes, they have definitely seen that retention of great staff members is much higher if you can look after their health and wellness. And so using that as, I guess, a stepping stone for other companies who are just starting to investigate the space, that says a lot from a research and statistical perspective. However, it's a long-term game, and that's why a lot of corporates are hesitant to put significant budget into these sorts of platforms. But we're getting there. We really are. And the US is actually leading the charge, if I may say so.
The US. What's going on in the US? Tell me about that. I've got a team in the US. Movember has quite a big footprint in, the US. We've got an office in LA. We've got an office in New York City. So what's happening in the US? Why are US so progressive in this space?
Well, I went to Health, which is a huge conference in Vegas, so a health conference in Vegas. Just wrap your head around that one. But nonetheless, I really saw that startups over there have the ability to test and trial with these big corporates a lot more than we do. They have the population size, they have the budgets, and we're seeing the changes being made, I guess, at a more rapid rate than we are here, in that more employees are still working from home, and that's fine, and it's actually working for the corporates, and they're seeing the benefit as well. Whereas here, we are risk averse a lot of the time. And that means that even trialing some of these different practices for HR managers, they're not actually getting to the fruition stage and allowing them to see the benefits. So we are getting there. Things are changing, but due to the size of the US population, I do find they're ahead of the curve.
Yeah. And you know what? It's a big growth market for us, right? Because the US just seem to be, for us, they're very passionate about men's health, right? And we're seeing more and more fundraising. We're seeing more and more community groups getting involved. It's on a rapid rise, and it's an interesting market, the US. I think sometimes you think of the US and you think of fast food chains and poor eating and all of that kind of stuff. But wellness is definitely something that is, and health and well-being seems to be part of their DNA now. It's interesting.
It is, yeah. And there's just huge changes happening, really. In saying that, I think their core system, in terms of how an employer, for example, has to choose a plan, like a health insurance plan for employees, it's an upside down system. And that's why startups, I think, can actually get through and make an impact to show that the system itself actually isn't doing any justice for employees. So we have a better system from the core, I think, personally, and I'm happy to argue that with anyone. But as a result, startups, etc., have a harder time getting through, but they have a more difficult system from the ground up. But, change can actually be made with startups over there. So, yeah, we're in a different situation.
Okay. Well, I do want to run through some scenarios with you, but before we do that, what I'd love you to do is walk me through. Let's say I'm an employee. What is it? How do I access it? Tell me all about it. Let's go into the micro of MentWell. What does it look like? What's that experience like for an employee?
For sure. For an employee, so your HR manager would have already signed up through our B2B portal. They would have put your name into the portal, your email address and phone number as well. And then they would say to that portal how much you're going to have on your Mentwell card. They press go, the payment's made. You then receive a text message and email address, and an email with a link in it. You click on that link and then automatically the card goes straight to your digital wallet. So just like you might have your credit card in there already or a savings card, your Mentwell card sits in there as well. And that means that whether you're planning a GP appointment or maybe a psych appointment, maybe you want some extra help paying for a yoga class, whatever it might be across health and wellness, it doesn't matter if they don't know about Mentwell. They don't have to sign up with us. That's the best part about Mentwell. It is as simple as either using the card details online or tapping and going, essentially, tap and go as you usually would, again, with a credit card. And that's the key difference with Mentwell. We've just been able to tap into a system that's related to the EFTPOS system, but bar the types of services that can be used with a Mentwell card. So you can't, for example, go to Woolworths. A lot of people try, trust me. We can see it in the back end. They think it's just like a prepaid card. It's not. There is a stipulation that you still need to use it on health and wellness specifically. And yeah, it's that simple. So it's really just like a Visa or MasterCard, but it sits in your digital wallet and it is just for health and wellness services. It's simple.
And what are the scenarios in terms of when you receive funds onto your health and wellness card and your Mentwell card? Is it and I can imagine, you will join an organisation, you'll receive your card, there will be some funds preloaded on there as part of your onboarding experience. What from there? How does that all work?
Yeah, sure. So there's really three different ways that I guess corporates, businesses, organizations, charities are using the cards currently. The first way is not actually what you just described. It is more about a health and wellness benefit program. So that means $150 to $250 usually per quarter. And then that amount is distributed on a regular basis. And it's all automated in the system if they want it to be as well. The second way is more on an ad hoc basis, whereby you input everyone's birth details, etc., birthday dates rather, into the back end, key dates throughout the year, and then they can distribute as they see fit. So it's not a benefit as such; it's the key dates that are important when it may be, a loyalty program or something needs to be issued. The third way is, I've just lost my train of thought. You can cut this.
Hey, I lose mine all the time. That's part of the fun of the Rubber Band podcast. So we've gone to the two.
Thank God. Yeah. Thank God we got there. So benefits and then more of a loyalty program. And then also like integrations as well. So charities are integrating the concept of Mentwell through a co-branded card, whereby they can attract a new kind of donor. So an individual will come to a charity, they buy someone else in their network a co-branded card, and then the charity gets a kickback through that sale. So yeah, as you can see, there's a number of different ways that they're kind of being implemented across many different organizations.
Have you seen any organisations that are, really showcasing the benefit of being a client or, for Mentwell? Like the examples that I want to talk about, we as talent teams will onboard a new starter. They'll come in on their first day, they'll get their little box or tote bag with, and it drives me nuts from a sustainability perspective, but could be pen and notepad and, keep cups okay, because it's, at least you're not getting your takeaway coffee cup. It's, it's okay.
True.
But
so much swag.
Have you seen anyone that's kind of in terms of, the onboarding experience that, really showcasing that as a better way to invite and welcome their team members as they're onboarded?
I'll be totally honest with you, not really. It has been spoken about with a number of corporates, but really the benefit program of issuing cards on a regular basis seems to be the way that corporates want to use these cards. And
Yeah.
I'll add one thing to that. You mentioned health insurance earlier. We've had a number of pretty significant size companies come to us in the last 2 weeks, actually, who are saying that they don't want to pay additional amounts for their health insurance to cover additional extras. So they want to
Mm.
reroute those funds into something where everyone in the company can benefit.
Yeah.
So it really makes sense. All of a sudden, instead of $1,000 as an optional extra for every employee, whereby only 30% of the cohort actually uses any of that spend, right? But you're still paying the health insurer.
Mm.
Instead, rerouting that and giving $600 to absolutely everyone in the company. You can understand that if you're actually empowering staff by giving them the cash already, that you're going to get a higher amount of usage for one.
Right?
It's a better
Yeah.
way to make everything equal. And it's just interesting that that particular query has actually come to us twice in the last 2 weeks. So there could
Uh-huh.
hopefully be a bit of a trend there.
Yeah, it's something that's on my radar. But the other thing is really, from an employer brand perspective, we showcase our organization culture, we showcase our values, our vision and purpose, what we stand for, and that's how we attract people that want to come and work for us. Have you seen any of your corporate clients that have really showcased the benefits of wellness and wellbeing programs, and specifically the partnership with Mentwell? Have you seen anyone that is really bringing that to the forefront and shining a light on that, and why it is part of their DNA, and why they see well-being and health as a real, I suppose, differentiator to other organizations to help attract people in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll mention two here of maybe different sized companies for reference. So one would be FunLab. Kudos to Jay Taylor, who heads up the people services, the group people services with them. He's just a champion. He's always looking for new ways to improve their health and wellness benefits program. And he has been incredible in that he was one of our first clients. They've got 4,600 staff members Australia-wide and in New
Whoa.
Zealand as well.
Wow.
Huge, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, again, just kudos to them. Everything that they're doing is market leading when it comes to health and wellness. They are taking risks, which is great to see. And they're just really forward thinking. So, yeah, they are really flying the flag for Mentwell, which is great. The other company would be Heaps Normal, so 30 staff, and that's on a regular basis, so on a quarterly basis. They're issuing cards, and they have a really open communication channel with their staff, so they're getting feedback all the time. We're asking for that feedback as well. And the number one resounding, I guess, piece of feedback was that even though we don't have to do huge onboarding processes for people to use Mentwell, the card is always in their digital wallet. And what that means is if they do happen to go for a spa or they happen to go for a massage, they might not have in their mind that they're doing it because they have a Mentwell card, but the cash is there anyway.
Mm.
And so the fact that it implements into our current, I guess, processes for paying for services makes it a massive advantage. The other thing to consider, and one day there will probably be some kind of big entity that comes after Mentwell because of this potentially. But for example, you heard it first, yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you go to a GP and you pay for your appointment with a Mentwell card, but let's say that you're getting a rebate as well, and you give them another card to get that rebate on, right, through your health insurer or whatever it might be, that means that you're actually kind of getting free money to your account as
Mm.
well. So we've kind of broken the system a little bit with one really simple mechanism.
How interesting. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, you're changing the world, Nikki. This is great. This is great. No, I
One
love
digital
it.
gift card at a time.
Exactly. And you know what? I see, so much potential with this, because I see this being a benefit. I talk about attracting people in and people seeing organizations that actually care about their employees to the point that they're actually, I suppose, paying for their health and well-being, right? And that's a wonderful thing, and that's something that we should do. Then I see engagement, right? Like I see that this is something that real care culture we know leads to a higher engaged workforce, which leads to higher productivity, which then impacts retention. We see less turnover, happy employees stay, rah, 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 rah. I know that sounds very cliched, but we know that's true.
It's all true.
So have you seen some of your clients celebrating, some shifts in terms of their team's engagement, in terms of retention? Are we seeing any of those results yet? Are some of your clients heading in the right direction and seeing the outcome of the investment?
Yeah, I mean, I think even knowing that within 3 months, majority of our clients will see a 60% uptake.
Right.
Pretty good. Not bad, especially given gift cards globally usually have a 50% uptake in a 3-year expiry period. Not bad. And given that we have only been in market for a year and a half, we're pretty happy with that stat so far. In terms of how that is then impacting retention and all of those wonderful things that you mentioned, I think it's going to take a little bit longer for Mentwell to be directly correlated, because at the moment there's a number of different things that are happening for these companies. You've got your EAP, and let's hope that they've chosen a decent one. They've got right, exactly. Let's also acknowledge that there is so much information out there in the way of mental health apps as well, right? And whatever other organizations they have to offer employees to, maybe yoga classes, etc. So actually being able to define the exact impact from one of those providers can get a little bit funky, right? However, the companies who have come on board with us quickly are those who are already winning awards for health and wellness practices for employees, for people in culture. So they're the ones that are already forward thinking. And I guess it's up to companies like Mentwell to keep on surging forward and trying to sell into those more difficult industries and difficult companies as well.
Yeah, agreed. And you've got to follow. Like, things are going to get pretty tight. I mean, we've been in an environment in terms of, organizations. The focus on hiring. There's been a lot of candidates in market. We haven't been in a candidate short market for the last, I would say, 2.5 years, but back then was during the tech boom where it was absolutely impossible to find people, right? Like, this to me is a key differentiator, but it's also a really important way to show that you have that culture and a leadership team that cares about your well-being and about your health. And I think there's nothing more powerful and important than an executive to show they care about you as a human being and your well-being, right? Like, it's powerful. So, I hope those that are your more challenging, organizations to tap into will suddenly and eventually have that light globe moment, because it's a no-brainer. Right.
It really is. It literally says that on our website, but they don't go down that far on the front, on the homepage. Anyway, I will add on to that as well. If we take the work from home, I guess, swing that we've seen, right? Everyone working from home. Now there's a whole lot of news about big corporates getting everyone back into the office full time. There's a lot of push and pull and a lot of control. That's where it all comes down to. But those employers who are showing that they can trust their employees with choice, right? They're the ones who are the market leaders. They're the ones who are going to create change, and they're the ones who are also going to reap the benefits. We all know that. And Mentwell falls into that category. It's choice. It's accessibility. It's freedom to actually choose what health and wellness looks for each individual person. We've got people using Mentwell on acupuncture and somatic healings next to a massage, next to a doctor. 27% of people are using a Mentwell card on just a plain old GP, which I think is a stat that speaks for itself anyway, right? But yeah, I really think that those employers who are ready to lead the charge and let a bit of a load off themselves as well, stop controlling everything to the degree that they think they have to.
Yeah.
They're the ones who will see the benefits.
And honestly, Nikki, this is diversity, inclusion, and equity at its core, and this has been a bugbearer of mine for a number of years. And I do apologise to yoga practitioners out there that go into corporates to that's not what this is all about. But organisations that will put on a monthly yoga class within one of their meeting rooms that attendees can tap into. That's not for everyone. Right? The choice is what is key, because what wellness and what fitness and all of those kind of things, and I know it comes from a really great place where organisations roll this out, but we've got to remember that all of our bodies are different, all of the way we like to engage in wellness, the way we like to exercise, our cultural differences. There are a lot of reasons why many of us, and I'm not actually comfortable to do yoga in front of a group of colleagues. That's something that I would like to do personally in a space that I feel safe and that I trust and that I can relax. I'm not going to relax in the boardroom, right? So, I think this is something that, diversity, inclusion, and equity practitioners should be looking at when it comes to their wellness programs, because this isn't a one-size-fits-all, and it isn't something that we should control, and it should be on our terms, because every individual is different. So I love what this brings to that space as well.
Thank you. Yeah. And look, I do teach yoga on the side because I absolutely love it, but I can completely understand why you don't want to do it in front of your fellow colleagues. Last time I did do a class myself, to be completely frank, someone farted in my face. Sorry, just the truth has to be said. At least being able to choose who you're around when that sort of stuff happens is a benefit in itself. But yeah, thank you so much for saying that. And I know that you and I think similarly in that perspective, that freedom and choice are two things that we need more of in the corporate space. No wonder people are dropping like flies, and some of the best talent out there are usually the ones who do burn out, who go and do something on their own, and they survive in a much better way, not with this control and craziness around them. Instead, they have autonomy. And that's something that I'd love to project out there way more, not just for corporates, but honestly for humanity and people in general.
Yeah, right. Like this is if you are a HR leader, if you're a diversity, inclusion, and equity, if you're a talent leader and you're looking at this, look at your wellness, your health programs, and look at it as this isn't one size fits all, and people need that choice. It's very empowering, and that's going to, again, lift more engagement. You're going to see more uptake on that, and then you're going to see the benefits, right? So you said it's on your website, no brainer. How can people reach out to you, Nikki, to explore this further?
Yeah, for sure. So go to www.metwell.com.au. You may be able to tell I've said that a few times, but you'll see on the homepage, there's a nice big button there that says sign up as a business. You can sign up as with a B2B portal rather for free. There's no onboarding costs or anything, and you can get going with distributing cards straight away. It's that simple. We do have a few optional extras too, including co-branded cards if you do want to reach out about those optional extras, and a partnership that we just did with Talked, which is a pay as you feel, or pay as you need rather. Vincent will kill me for saying that, pay as you need EAP. Then we can hook you up there as well as a complimentary service.
Wonderful. Nikki, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love the work that you're doing. This has been really inspiring. I've loved the conversation. You have an amazing weekend, and thank you so much for joining the Rubber Band podcast today.
Thanks so much for everything you do and everything you stand for. Once again, Eden, it's such a pleasure.
Ditto. Thank you. Take care, Nikki.